Let me do one more online questions because I only did one.
Paul Ellensburg in Washington State asks, Senator Edwards, how does mental health care fit into your concept of universal health care?
You like that question, huh? It is impossible for me to understand. Could you hear the question? How does mental health care fit into your concept of universal health care? It's impossible for me to understand how we can ever treat mental health different than physical health. It makes absolutely no sense. It ought to be the same. So, I have a very simple answer to this question. My answer is, in my universal health care plan, mental health and all aspects of mental health will be treated exactly the same way as physical health and will be covered exactly the same way. I see a lot of hands. They're giving me the hook. I want to say a couple of things. First, if your hand is up, and even if your hand is not up, and you have a question, you send it to me, I'll answer it. JohnEdwards.com. If you can use a computer, if you want to just write it and send it to us, you can do that. Because I want to answer, I came here to answer your questions. And if you have a question that didn't get answered, I want to answer your questions. And then last but not least, I want you to join us in this cause. Don't do it for me. I'm dead serious. Don't do this for me. Do it for yourselves, do it for your family, and do it for this country that you all love so much. Thank you all very much for coming today. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna say, hey, what's your name? Where are you from? And what do you think of the remarks? Okay, what's your name and where are you from?
My name is Luann Thomas. I'm from Kittery, Maine.
And what did you think of the senator's remarks today?
I thought they were I thought he was wonderful. His presentation was wonderful. And I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Okay. I'd love to hear it.
I fall into all of those categories that were mentioned. I'm a senior. I work part-time in a domestic violence agency.
Okay.
I have 6 grandchildren, and yesterday we sat at breakfast, and I had a conversation with my teenage grandchildren, and the bottom line is this man is bringing hope, integrity, and real honesty to our country.
And a political dialogue too. That's the problem. That's one of the reasons I do this, because the political dialogue is completely brain dead. It's just talking points on both sides and nobody gets to any kind of an issue honestly at all.
Yeah, and it was really fun to hear my teenage grandchildren, my children who are in their mid to later 40s, and me as a senior all agreeing that...
Well, he's cool, and now you're going to be on YouTube, so you're going to be cool now too. Thank you very much for speaking to me today. Alrighty, so what's your name and where are you from?
My name is Paul O'Connor. I live in Somersworth. I'm the president of the Metal Trades Council at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard.
Okay. And what did you think of the Senator's remarks today?
Actually, from my perspective, he said the right things. But it's also too soon for me to make a decision. No,
yeah.
The process has just begun.
And you're in New Hampshire, so it's a very serious decision for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since you're in early stage.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm impressed by the number of people that showed up here today. It tells me that people are paying attention and people want change. Even though we had major change in November, people want more change. Right?
Yeah, I agree. Did you have a question for the senator that you didn't get a chance to ask him?
Yeah, I did. My question is this: the Navy right now is cutting up, decommissioning, cutting up nuclear powered submarines.
Yeah.
by their own admission, not because we don't need them, but because we can't afford to maintain them.
Right, the overhauling and maintenance.
Right. At the same time, we're cutting up submarines because we can't afford them. The Navy is jamming a computer network system down the throats of all naval activities across the nation. The system is gluttonous. It's costing the taxpayers more than $4 billion a year. It's an outrageous expense, not necessary. And I want to know what John Edwards would do if he was elected to instill fiscal responsibility in the Pentagon.
In the Pentagon, and accountability and oversight. I think that maybe one of the reasons that things are going haywire is because there's no fact findings or meetings in Congress.
That's the big
Nobody
part.
has to go there and explain. There's no oversight, so nobody has to worry about explaining this out in the open somewhere.
That's a big part of the problem. We need to get beyond that. We need to ask the question: why is it so many admirals and generals that help steer contracts to the private sector in retirement go to those private sector firms and work
Yeah.
there? What's up?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing with the revolving door with the lobbyists coming out of Congress and going to work on K Street.
Right.
The whole
It
thing,
needs to
there's
be-
no basic accountability
And it's all at the expense of the American taxpayer.
of the taxpayer, right? And I think that what you were saying is that there's, no priority to keep these shipyard jobs, but on the other hand, there's a crazy priority to do $4 billion worth of work when you may not even need it.
Right.
And you don't understand where are the priorities.
That's right. That's exactly right.
All right, thank you for speaking to me today. Okay, what's your name and where are you from?
My name is John Joyal, and I am from Somersworth, New Hampshire.
Alrighty.
I am the second vice president of the American Federation of Government Employees at
Okay.
the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard,
Ooh.
local 2024.
Okay. And what did you think of the senator's remarks today?
I thought the senator said the right things. New face, new energy. He's got all kinds of vibrant people around him. I think that just the amount of people that showed up here today is a clear sign that most of the Americans here in New Hampshire are paying attention.
Yeah,
That's a
early.
good thing.
That is a good thing.
We're a year out from the primary, and that is a big sign that people are paying attention. It requires people to stand up, show up, step up, and speak up. If you don't like what's going on in our government, that's our government, by the way.
Exactly. It's
you need
our
to stand up and do
responsibility.
something about it. Silence is consent when it comes to elected officials. If they're not hearing the phone ring, or they're not getting the emails, and they're not getting letters, people aren't knocking on their door, letting them know what's on their message, then everything's fine as far as elected officials are concerned. Things are not fine in our country.
They're not right.
There's a bunch of elected officials in this nation. Most of them are ex-lawyers, ex-judges, and millionaires running our country like it's their company, and they think we're all employees. And I've had it up to the top of the brim of my hat, as you can see. We just put a new congresswoman in Congress, and she's
Oh,
gonna
that's
go
Carol
work.
Shea Porter.
Yeah.
I interviewed her in Manchester. She was unbelievable.
She's the one.
And she did her campaign, the primary campaign, with 30 grand.
Yeah, and these two muscles and brains and energy right here as well, we help. But I'm here just to pay attention, and I kind of like scan the crowd and see what the looks on the faces of the people look like. And you can tell a lot by looking at people. And I think people are interested. We've got people that come from Massachusetts, or some people outside from California. This is New Hampshire. This is where it all begins. And as New Hampshire goes, so goes the nation. So it's still a little early to tell. Mr. Edwards, he fired the first shot. He beat the rest of them to the punch. That's a good thing. And for that, I give him an A for effort.
And he did it in NOLA in the 9th Ward. No one's going to do that either.
Absolutely. So I give him an A for effort on that, and we'll see what happens. But it requires people to get up, stand up, show up, step up, and speak up. If you don't like what's
have to
going
be
on, if you're not
active.
doing something about it, then you're part of the problem in this
Right.
country. You need to become part of the solution.
Right.
So Happy New Year to you, and thank you for what you do for our country. I appreciate that.
Thank you for speaking to me today.
Absolutely.